I'm making a sand waterfall for my fish tank, and I'm just using some things that I've got lying around. So this one is a large takeaway container. I don't want a very big fall, so I'm using smaller equipment. And I've got a PVC pipe, which is a 1.5 centimeter pipe, and I've got two 90-degree pieces and two small little pieces that I just cut off the main pipe. And on one of them you're going to be cutting, depending on how large you want the waterfall or sandfall at the top to be. This particular one I'm cutting at 5 centimeters, and you're going to be cutting it at a 45-degree angle like that, so that the top piece will be going into one of the 90 degrees. So I'll just cut that. For the top one, I'm actually going to be cutting it a little bit bigger. I'm going to add an extra 3 centimeters onto the side, so that when I test it to see how far the water and the sand falls, then I can adjust the fall position at the top. The second piece you need to put into your container, not right at the bottom, but about half a centimeter up from the bottom, and then just make a hole there. And then this pipe we're also going to cut at a 45-degree angle, and the distance that I'm going with this one is 10 centimeters, so that'll go through the bowl like that. I'm using a hacksaw and my angle cutter to just cut these poles. I've got my two pieces cut at a 45-degree angle like that, and I'm just taking a box cutter and just cleaning the inside to get rid of any of the little pieces that have left by the saw blade. So just do it on both the pieces. Now take a piece of sandpaper. I'm using 150 grit sandpaper, and we're just going to straighten these so that there's nothing that's going to make the sand stop flowing. So it's all nice and straight. Don't forget to do the inside here as well to make it sure that it's nice and smooth. Do that on both pieces. The best way to mark your circle where you want to place your piece is take a piece of masking tape and just lie it flat onto a flat surface. Take your pole, place it on there, trace around it, and then put it onto your bowl in the position where you want your pole to be. So about half a centimeter up from the bottom, and putting it as close to the middle as I can get it. And then we're going to cut this small piece out. I'm going to be using a small pair of nail scissors, so I'm just poking a hole through there. You can actually use a soldering iron as well if you are comfortable using that. I find this works really well because it's got the rounded part of the scissors, which gives you a nice clean cut. I've got my piece cut out, and now we can just remove the tape. And then we're going to take the longer piece and we're going to insert that into the hole so that it's sitting in about 5 centimeters like that. And as you can see, it's quite low to the bottom. And you can use silicone, but if you're going to be using silicone in a fish tank, you must make sure that you're using 100% silicone. I'm actually just going to be using hot glue to do this. Depending on what size piping that you're using, I'm using a 5mm piping. I'm taking a drill bit which is a 5.5. I'm just going to place that into my driver. And now what you want to do is you want to drill a hole directly through the top of the one pipe. Because these little connections are a little bit slippery, I've taken some masking tape and just taped off where I actually want to drill. So just place a piece on there and your drill bit won't slip. So you've got the top one drilled now, and then we can remove the tape. And then just clean off all the little pieces. And now we're going to be threading the pipe through the top. You might need a pair of pliers to get your fingers in to get this through, although this one's going quite well. And then just pull it through. And then thread it through your long pipe. So we've got it through the pipe like that. Now, when your pipe is through, it's too far. You want this particular piece to lie exactly flush with that, so I'm just going to pull some more back in. So the pipe is lying flush now. And now we can connect the bottom piece to that. And now I'm going to take another elbow and I'm going to place it on the end of the pipe to catch all the sand. And now we can attach this small piece to the top like that. Make sure that it's in line with the bottom to catch the sand. When I work with cement, I like to first do my design in newspaper first, and then I make up all the little pieces by using the cement. And I use the cement with a very thick consistency, so I can make all the little shapes that I've got in my design. I've mixed my cement into the consistency that I want, so it's quite a nice thick mixture like that, so it can hold quite nicely. And what I've done is I've covered the whole bowl with newspaper, and now I'm going to start building around it. I've just dug some random holes and razors into some wet sand, and I'm just going to pour some cement in there, and hopefully it'll come out looking okay. My cement is all dry, so now we're going to just take it out. And hopefully we'll have something quite nice. So that's what the paste looks like. I'll just clean that up and see if I like it. I've washed all the sand off and I'm quite happy with how it looks, and I've got all my other pieces made, so I just, as I said, I make individual pieces and then I'm going to assemble it all. So that my piece doesn't fall over when I'm working with it, I've taken a 2-litre soft drink bottle and filled it with water, and just using some masking tape and taped the pipe to that, because I'm not actually going to be gluing onto the pipe, but I need some guidance as to how high that I need to go. I've got all my pieces, so that's the base where the bowl is going to go in. So they've got all the pieces ready to be glued together, and I'm going to be using cigarette filters and super glue, and the super glue I just bought off Temu. And because I work with a lot of super glue, I just buy bags of these replacement tips, so it's easy to just attach to the bottle. That's so you can get it into really tight places. I'm so sorry, my video footage of building the main construction of my falls was corrupted, but I've still got a few more pieces to glue on, which hopefully I'll be able to show you how to do it. To glue the rocks together, I'm using some cigarette filters. To prepare the filter, just remove the little tiny piece of paper that's covering it. And then fan the filter out so that you get quite a nice flat piece. Right, it's ready to be used now. And we take that little piece of filter and then we're just going to stick it where you want to actually be gluing. So I'm going to be gluing that large rock to this little one, so we're going to just put a piece there and then get the next rock and line it up. I've got the next rock lying flush with that, and now I'm taking some super glue and we're just going to glue the filter. And then hold it in place until it sets. So I've got the first piece of rock joined together, and now I'm just going to start adding a few extra rocks. I've glued some of my pieces on with the filters. When you're working with filters and super glue, be careful, it gets really hot and it does release quite a few fumes, so wear a mask when you're doing this. I've sealed all the holes and covered all the filters, and now I'm going to leave that whole thing overnight to dry. I've taken a plastic bag and I've covered everywhere that I don't want my cement to go, and I've covered it with newspaper as well, because I want to build the sides up so that I can use my big piece, but I don't want them connected. I want two separate pieces, so the back will be separate to the whole front piece. I'm joining the large piece that I cast in the sand, and I'm just going to be putting cement on the back there to make supports so that it can stand alone. I've done both sides and filled the center piece in, so now it'll be able to stand by itself. My piece is all dry now, and I'm using Mars Black and Hooker Green. I'm just mixing it into a very liquid paint solution for a wash to go over my waterfall or sandfall. My first coat is all dry, and now I'm going to give it a second coat. Taking my same two colours, which is the Mars Black and Green, and I've mixed it, and now this time the paint is really thick. I've done my second coat as if I was going to be dry brushing, but with wet paint, so I've just stroked it over the top. So as you can see, I've left out where the paintbrush has not touched, so there's different shades of the colour all through the piece. And I wait for that to dry. I'm taking some of the base coat that I used, and I'm going to be adding a little bit of titanium white to that, so I can do some dry brushing onto all these rocks. I've made the colour just a little bit lighter, or quite a lot lighter than the original colour, but I didn't want to have white, so that's why I've mixed my colours. And now you just take your brush and take off most of the paint. I'm just using the lid of a container to do that, and then we're just going to lightly brush across the surface. Which will just pick up some of the uneven parts, like that. And I'm going to do the whole thing. It doesn't make a very big difference, but there's just a subtle difference by just having a few of the highlights on the rocks. I've got some moss which I'm going to be gluing onto my sandfalls. That's quite nice long straggly bits like that. I'm just going to try and place them on there, see how they look, and then glue them on. You don't need an awful lot of glue for these, just so that they have got an anchor so that they don't float around. I'm using two different kinds of moss, so I've got the clumping one at the top there, and then I've just put a bit on the sides. And now I'm just going to put a blob of super glue on that just to hold them in place. I've also put a little fake one there as well, just to brighten it up a wee bit. I'm going to be using super glue to just glue my pieces of moss all over my sandfalls. I've connected my air pump, and as you can see there's quite a nice steady flow of water coming out. When you connect the pipe, you must make sure that it is above the water, like that. I'm washing all the sand and thoroughly wetting it, because as you can see here, if you don't wet it, it floats on the water, so you have to wet it all completely so that you don't have it floating in your water. And I'm just washing all the dirt off that comes in the packaging. Just placed the decorative piece that we made over the pipes now, and now I'm going to fill it with the sand. I've just joined two 2-litre plastic bottles together, And now I'm going to be sinking that and then pouring the sand in through the top into the little bottom receptacle. So we've got it in, and now we can pour the sand in. Now that we've filled all the sand in, we're just going to remove the receptacle. The last of the sand is still going to be flowing out. So make sure that you're holding your piece over. And now we can test it. My Sandfall is working. It's not quite as spectacular as what I was hoping for, but nevertheless, there's my sand falls. May I suggest, if you want a fall to go a little bit stronger than this one, to use a 2 centimeter pipe instead of the 1.5 like I've used, because the sand does tend to get clogged in it. If you found this video helpful or you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Really appreciate it if you would subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.